There it goes.
Where's everybody?
Randy, how do you like being president so far?
Oh, it's a real high.
Pretty exciting, eh?
I thought you were going to say the pressure is immense.
But I now can answer the email. That's good. So now you can get me at president@victoria.rasc.ca.
I haven't asked council yet, but I guess I'll have to see if people want any business cards made.
No.
Yes, there's a few changes, but we're not meeting in person, so business cards really don't matter much these days.
We have Malhar Kendurkar with us with an interesting looking scope.
Hello, Malhar.
Looks like he's away.
You're on mute.
Is he a guest speaker or just a guest?
Oh, super. President of Prince George. That's excellent. So what's your telescope that you're showing off there?
Hey, hi. Sorry. It's a 24-inch telescope, 24-inch f4 with a SBIG ST10 camera.
Wow.
That's a big scope.
Yes.
Is that in your backyard or?
Oh no, it's our observatory telescope of RASC, so it's like close to home. So it's
This is in Prince George?
It is in Prince George. Yes.
What sort of observatory does your center have?
It's a RASC, Prince George Center.
Yeah. What's the observatory?
Prince George Astronomical Observatory.
Hmm.
Where is it, and what sort of activities do you have there when it's not COVID?
Well, we do open house events every Friday night and public talks every Friday night on different topics. And sometimes I give like presentations in public library, universities, and schools. Yeah. So right now I like in March, like this month, starting of this month, I'm going to start like Zoom presentations from the observatory. Because of COVID, we can't have any open house events. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
So what kind of scope is that you can put a camera on it?
It's a Newtonian and Cassegrainian. So on our Cassegrainian focus, we have a low resolution spectrograph.
Mhm.
And on a Newtonian f4, we have a CCD camera. So I usually use that CCD camera for my supernova research and spectrograph for variable star discoveries and spectroscopy.
So is this your scope or the club scope?
Clubs.
Club scopes, oh really? And
Yeah.
you do supernova research with it?
Yeah.
Wow, good for you.
Yeah.
Your center also bought our 14-inch Meade. I think that was supposed to be for public outreach, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it is. We are using it still. We have it.
Good.
Yep.
Wow.
We're glad to see it have a good home.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a wonderful telescope. We are actually planning to get a color CCD camera, color CMOS camera for that telescope and make it like a remote observatory.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's my plan for this year. See, we just got funds from government, and then in the next business meeting, which is on March 10th, I'm gonna discuss about that. So yeah.
Sounds ambitious.
Yeah, it's fun. It's been, yeah, but right now because of COVID, like everything has been shut down and our observatories is like closed for almost over a year now. So I mean, almost a year.
Yeah, we feel your pain.
Yeah. Well, my telescopes are like in Spain and in Chile. So if our Prince George Observatory is closed, it's not a big deal right for now, at least. But I usually observe using my telescopes, which are in Canary Islands and in Spain and in Chile.
Now, are you renting time, or do you actually have a remote? Do you actually have your own scope there?
Remote telescopes.
Your own
So-
remote telescope there?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh my goodness.
yeah. So we have collaborations. So I'm leading a research team called Global Supernova Search Team.
Mhm.
So I have in my team we have 7 members. So from different countries.
Mhm.
And for this year, we are planning to get some research grants and planning to set up six robotic telescope in northern British Columbia, only dedicated to search for supernovas.
Hmm. And you're in Prince George, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Why haven't we heard about you before?
'Cause you haven't been listening. They're pretty active.
Oh, is that right, huh?
Well, you haven't been involved in RASC really in the nitty gritty of it. So
No, I haven't, no.
Prince George has led the way in public outreach in a lot of ways.
Wow, good for you guys.
How many active members do you have?
We have around 17 right now.
17.
Yeah, 17. Yeah, like really active members who are doing like astrophotography, visual observations. So yeah, from Prince George, Bob and I, we are doing research, and all the other members are doing astrophotography, beautiful astrophotographers.
Good for you.
Yeah. But because of COVID, everything is like slow and, it affects a lot. But yeah, it is what it is, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I was up there 2 years ago, and they have a hell of an neat observatory up there. And, they even go as far as Mount Robson to do outreach. Now, you may think, oh, it's not too far, but what is it? It's 200 or 300 miles away from Prince George, right?
Oh, yes.
Several
it is.
hours drive.
Yep,
That's
several
right.
hours drive it is. Yep.
Yeah, I was quite impressed.
Yeah, hopefully I'll be able to do all the online Zoom presentations like ASAP starting up this month. And we'll be looking for like guest speakers. So if anyone would like to give a talk, they're welcome. I can actually write my email here if you guys.
You can put it on the chat.
Yeah. And there we go. So how are activities going on for Victoria Center right now?
Well, these Astro Cafe
Yeah.
have been really very successful. This is actually a small representation. We're often over one screen. I don't know how many people that makes. And it's been going every week. Traditionally, we met in person on Monday night, and then come the summer, then we supported the big star parties at the center of the universe, and that was with the Friends of the Dominion Astrophysical Observatory. With COVID, then this just has been going on every week. So,
Yeah.
since March, we've just had them on Zoom. And I think they're working really well. There's lots of people who are presenting. We have, I think, a very active group going on, even though we can't do things together.
That's nice. Yeah, I heard about the virtual parties. I'm really curious about the virtual party. So DAO, Friends of DAO, invited me to give a talk on March 27.
What's the
Cool.
topic?
It's 1 second. I can't remember the topic. 1 second. Oh,
Well, you can put that in the chat too, okay?
I
Mal?
will. Yes. Yes, it's about the sky survey and supernovas. I'll put that on a chat in 1 second. There we go. So the topic it is a sky survey research for transient using an array of robotic telescopes. There we go.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll promote that to our members as well.
That'll be great. Thanks.
Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first Astro Cafe of March. Thank you for joining us this evening, and welcome to Malhar from Prince George. Glad you were able to join us tonight. Yeah, so we had our AGM last week, and pleased to congratulate our new president, Randy Enkin, and welcome him to his new role. And it's great to in that chair. We only had a couple of things so far this evening mentioned to me. And one of them is Randy would like to give a presentation on his Isabell Williamson certificate that he did. And I guess a chance to congratulate him on that and his election. But first, David Lee asked if he could spend a few moments on the special interest groups with the various leaders talking about those going forward. And I see, it looks like most of them are here, so that's good. So David, if you're ready.
Okay, thanks, Chris. I don't know if Jim is here. I'm just looking for him in the participants list.
I don't see him yet.
Yeah, I could probably speak for him. Anyways, I'm pleased to say that there's been a fair bit of kind of interaction with the special interest group, so that's been great. We've sort of kicked off the beginners group, and we're meeting actually tomorrow night, actually. So anybody who hasn't joined that wants to, just send me an email about that. And John, can you maybe comment on your astrophotography SIG?
Yeah, it's we've had 2 meetings. Seems to be going well. We've got I think about 11 people have been coming. And the next one is on the 24th of this month. We do them on the 4th Wednesday of each month. So if anyone else wants to join, they are welcome.
That's great. So I'm kind of leading the beginners group and also the electronically assisted astronomy group as well. And we only just met last month, but we're meeting this Thursday. So again, if you're interested, I'll be going over the components of EAA and also go over the rig that I've configured. But we're also hoping that the group will sort of develop some projects or at least some investigations. There's so much new technology involved in EAA. It would be a shame to not use the resources that we have within the group. So I think there's a lot of interest in actually maybe looking into the pollution filters, maybe into some of the software that's used for EAA. And I'm hoping people will sort of take their favorite thing and look at it in great depth and maybe share that with us. So that's our plan. The last one is the makers group, and I don't see Jim here, but I think he said that he was going to try to get that one started soon. That's for anybody who likes to make their own equipment for various reasons. Because maybe commercial equipment is too expensive, or maybe you just want to do it. So I thought of this for myself because I tend to be a bit of not so much of a fabricator, but an integrator. So a lot of stuff in astronomy lately has really catered to integrators. You don't really have to build everything yourself. There's a lot of little bits and pieces that you can sort of cobble together. So I think the makers group, I think, will go in different directions. I'm sure. I'm probably the only one who doesn't do a lot of fabrication, but I'm sure there are a lot of people here that do and would like to. So Jim's probably a better resource for that. I think he actually belongs to the local makers group. So I'm really looking forward to having that start soon. Anyways, thank you.
Thanks, David. Does anybody have any questions for David? And maybe I'll just mention at this point, if there are some ideas for other groups and people would like to consider starting them, please get in touch.
Yeah, so also they're on the main page, Victoria RASC. If you go to the special interest groups page, you can sort of click on the title of each SIG and it'll take you to a resource. I know that John has one. I just created a resource for the beginners group and also for the EA group. So in my case, I've developed the PowerPoints that will be points of discussion for each of the SIGs this week. So if you want to just have a look, before you sort of commit, just have a quick look, and if you're interested, just let me know.
Great. Okay, I was going to mention one thing too. Our past president spent a chunk of today distributing certificates that could not be given out in person at the AGM. So, and there are some photos on the website. I don't know if you just want to briefly describe your day, Reg, or if that's self-explanatory.
If I could share the screen, I'll go to that site if you want.
Sure, why don't we do that?
Okay. I'll just go from the top down. Jim Hesser sent this link about a meeting on 4 p.m. on March the 3rd, Wednesday. And this professor from Yale University, who's got a remarkable resume, is giving a talk, and it should be interesting. And if you want to learn more about it, there's a little tiny link here. Click on that and it'll take you to the Perimeter Institute and you can log in from there. The other thing is that Chris has been sending me the Steward Observatory newsletter, and I couldn't figure out how to connect to this thing, but I finally found a way to link to it. And I just wanted to see if we can look at it. This comes out once a month, and it's from Arizona area, and it's got a lot of interesting stories. A number of us have gone to the mirror facility on Arizona State University, where they create these beautiful mirrors. There's a thing on that. But the one thing I wanted to show you about is a topic down here. All sorts of things you can look at here. But this one here, the University of Arizona was the people who developed the high-rise camera that is in orbit around Mars. And they talk about how they used that camera to develop a technique so the spacecraft Perseverance could find its way down to the Earth. So there's a bit of a background on that there, and that got me kind of curious. And so I found this thing. It's called Terrain Relative Navigation, and the HiRISE imaging system actually had it to such a resolution that it was measuring the terrain to 1 pixel per foot. And they needed that high resolution to select an appropriate target. So if you hunt around, there's a lot of interesting information of how they did it. And it's kind of like a geographical information system type of way of doing it using digital elevation maps and all sorts of stuff. But essentially what they did is they assembled a whole pile of images that they stored on the Perseverance. And as it went down in descent, it went to higher and higher resolution to be able to kind of find a solution. And it's sort of equivalent to the astrophotography technique of plate solving. And so it worked very well, and they apparently they came up with a solution automatically, and it put the Perseverance lander within 5 meters or so of their planned location. So that's one of the things that they have there. So I'll just go back to the other thing here. And so we got to some award-winning Victoria Center rascals. So it says awards were announced at the Victoria Center annual general meeting on February 26th. Because the meeting was held by Zoom, these patient rascals did not actually receive their certificates until Monday, March 1st. Photos of 3 of the recipients are included. Awards were also delivered to Dave Robinson and Joe Carr, but delivery man, past president Reg Dunkley, was too busy chatting and forgot to snap their photos. But, and because Dan Posey, the poor soul, still has to work hard for a living, his Astro Imaging Award will be delivered at a later date. So, but congratulations to all. So this is Alec Lee, and he displays his Award of Excellence in Astrophotography for his great photo of Comet Neowise, which also captured a reflection in Thetis Lake of the comet's tail. So I had a great chat with Alec, first time I met him this morning. And then Chris Gaynor, he dashed in and got a very special Hubble Space Telescope mask and put it on, which is very appropriate because he was given displays his certificate for recognition for his contribution to the history of astronomy and space technology by authoring Not Yet Imagined Hubble Space Telescope, study of Hubble Space Telescope operations. And that book is available free for download, and it's on, the link is on previous Astro Cafe. So if you're interested, check that out. And then finally, but we have Mr. Chris Peirce holding the Newton Ball Award. And the Newton Ball Award is coveted for his distinguished service to the Victoria Center, and it's a real honor. And Chris also has a small plaque. That's the kind of perpetual plaque that has to be returned at the end of the year, and a nice certificate as well. So congratulations to everyone there. One last thing is, just as I was ready to publish this thing, Karun sent this thing about a virtual tour of SLU observatories. Now, I don't really know much about this. Maybe somebody else can talk about it, but the Chief Astronomical Officer will be giving a tour of it, and I don't know where he's from, but it'll be on the internet, and that is at 7:30 p.m. on Wednesday, and the link is here. So, and there's a link here if you want to dig in and learn more about SLU. So that's about it from here, Chris. I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you, Rich. Any questions or comments for Rich?
Well, one thing also came from Karun this evening, if I can take the screen.
Please do.
There's this public talk. Wilfred Buck, Indigenous star lore expert, is going to be giving a talk tomorrow. So at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, but you have to register in advance. So this is hosted by ARC. Who can tell us what ARC is?
That's the Astronomy Research Center at UVic.
Very good.
Yeah.
So that time is right for our time zone, is it? Because they didn't put a time zone in there.
That is correct for our time.
Okay, so 3 tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah.
Another busy week.
Yeah, the link is also on the previous Astro Cafe site, but it was upgraded to the AGM site. So there's a link down there on that.
Right. Okay, thank you. Great. Okay, so maybe Randy will stay with you.
Very good.
And as has been noticed, Randy became the 24th person to receive the Isabell Williamson observing the certificate for observing the moon. And quite very few people have actually done this. In our center, Nelson Walker has also done it. So so he and Randy are our lunar experts. So invite Randy to say a few words about what was involved in doing this, because it is quite esoteric.
Well, the funny thing is, it's when you get in detail in a subject, then you realize how much more people are doing. So in a way, it's just a gateway. The Isabell Williamson is it's challenging, but it is so baby compared to the sort of work that the really serious lunar observers are, and I can only hope to head off that direction. Anyway, this is actually the document. This was the center document that I presented to Bill Weir and the observing committee. It's not a normal dossier. I gather it was not in a format that made it very easy to assess. I had a spreadsheet that goes along with it that, you know, kind of more direct, saying, check, 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 these are the things I saw. But let me go through this. And of course, I have to start with our dear friend, Diane Bell, who gave us all that sense of enthusiasm for looking up, and her line that I will always remember is, "The sky is a gift." So let's all remember her. Let's all aspire to enjoy the skies, because it is a gift to us. So I've always been interested in the moon. Certainly since they landed 51 years ago. I joined the club in 2018. Nelson gave a talk about his Isabell Williamson, and I thought, I should aim at that. But there's this lovely starter program, the Explore the Moon observing program that the RASC has organized, and it is it's wonderful. You really get to learn about the moon with it. It was something that I was able to accomplish in 3 lunations in 3 months, from January through March. And I want to show, first of all, I think this is the first time that Nathan ever signed a document. He was one of my witnesses, and Diane was my other witness. And I sent this to the observing committee, and they had the dossier. And I got this lovely Explore the Moon pin. And my family likes to say that's my junior Cub Scout badge. And then I started working on the senior Cub Scout badge. So here's the equipment. I have, first of all, the observation that you can always spend more money. There's no problem in spending lots of money in astronomy. And so part of my principle is to not spend a lot of money. I found my Newtonian telescope for $50 on used Victoria, built in Vancouver. Omcon is now called Antares. And it's an okay telescope. This definitely is as small a telescope as you would want to do this program with. On the other hand, often people say the right telescope is the one you use. And I can keep this stored just inside my door, pull it out often, even in the middle of the night when I'm tired, and just put it out on my porch. It's a south-facing porch, and I'm ready to observe. The mount I got from Reg. It was designed for his 50 millimeter Tasco telescope, which is a very nice telescope, but I just did not have the resolution I needed with it. So I continued working with my 150 millimeter Newtonian. So I adapted the mount, and oh, I might get a better mount. It's a bit wobbly. I think I should probably have an EQ4 to really operate this. It's about a 10-pound telescope. I did spend real money on the eyepieces. For one thing, I think we should always shop local. And our local telescope shop is Bruce Lane's Quirky Science. So I have 2 of these Celestron Ultima Duo eyepieces. And yeah, I sometimes did observations at 300 times with a 2 times Barlow, but it's not better. I think the 150 is really optimal for most of the work I was doing. I also got the Finder Scope from Quirky Science. This is the one that does a circle, not just a red dot. Far, far better. Bruce is saying he sells the red dot because people want to buy a really cheap one, but he highly recommends this, and I totally agree. Good. So the other equipment, I did my Explore the Moon drawing with pencil on white paper, and it's frustrating because the moon has highlights and it has shadows. And so I saw some people on the internet doing this, and I've just adapted it to my own style. I did all the observations on gray paper, and I would start, first of all, do some tombstone information, the time, the date. I am a big fan of this method of saying where you are in the lunation called the Q day. And I'll talk a bit more about this. And then I would say, what the weather was like and what my goal was. And then I would sketch things out with the mechanical pencil. And then I found it was good to do the highlights. You don't have as much gradation with a white pencil as you do with a black. And then I would do the shading in with the black pencil. And I often had a kind of a charcoal pencil for doing the parts that were in shade. And then after I'm finished, and especially if it was, time for going back to sleep, I would do it the next day. I would go and label all the features, because that's part of first of all, part of learning the moon is to actually pull out the maps and learn what the names of everything are. But it's also part of the observing program. You have to actually show each of the features that you are saying that you've observed. So this was the company that ran that does the gray paper. I find the RASC calendar is very good for saying exactly where I am in the month. It's a great publication. Ruckel's Atlas of the Moon is the official atlas of the Isabell Williamson Lunar Observing Program, unfortunately out of print. So I got my parents-in-law to get me this from Abe Books. It's online, it's free if you want to do it online, but it's really nice having the hard copy. I spent many, many hours with this book, and it's perfect for this job. I printed out the observing program, and it has all of the targets you have to see, but also a nice little description about the geology. It's not just a list that you have to go check, 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 check. It really leads the observer through lunar reasoning, a lot of the geology, a lot of the lore of the people that are named who are honored with names on the moon. Another thing that is just wonderful, and I don't know how I would do it without it, is the Scientific Visualization Studio from NASA. Every December, publish images of what the moon is going to look like every hour of the year. So the 2021, the whole year was published in early December, and you just have to, they call it dial a moon, and you just say what the date and hour is, and you can see what to expect. And so you can plan out your observing session very, very well, because the issue with the moon is that it changes every hour. You can actually, lose what you're interested in if you wait too long. So very important to get to know what you're going to do when with a program like that. So there are 99 sketches in my dossier for the 360 something features that I drew. And if you take a look over time, remember I finished in March the Explore the Moon, and I started on March 31st with my first sketch, and it was kind of slow for the first while, but among other things, my mother died there, so it was not much of a quick start. But then that's October that I really started going. That's when you see the number of points going steep. That means that I was really working. Come November, December, January, pretty poor. And part of that is the weather. As everybody knows, the last couple of months have been terrible. But also there was an extended trip to Toronto for my son's wedding. Then March 13th came along, and we went into shutdown. Also, my choir shut down. One of the things that I do as well as astronomy is I'm in a Wednesday night choir, and no longer. So things really picked up come March. And in September, I guess I could smell the barn. I got really excited, and there's just such a beautiful set of clear skies through our autumn. So what I thought was going to be a 3-year project was half that time. It was 18 months, 20 lunations. Now, if you take a look through the hours of the day, certainly evening is when I did most of my observing, like any reasonable amateur astronomer. But what I've discovered is that if you go to sleep and then just wake up naturally, you're full of energy, and it's really, really lovely just to be out there alone at night, often with a deer coming by. Surprisingly often it's somebody walking their dog. But it really is a wonderful time. But I did have to, go to sleep 10, 11 o'clock, whatever. And then after a couple of hours, then I'm good to go, which is one of the reasons I didn't think I could be an astronomer, even though I had this passion for it since I was a little kid, was I didn't think I could do the nights. And okay, kids are grown up and left home. That helps a lot. But doing astronomy in the middle of the night is wonderful, and I highly recommend it. I remember Nelson talking about his Isabell Williamson experience and getting up in the middle of the night and coming back into the bed all cold. And yeah, that is an issue for one's partner. Okay, Q Day. Q Day is a idea that Dave Chapman sponsored in the Explore the Moon program. It said, an innovation of Explore the Moon is the Q Day method of locating and observing lunar features. This method distinguishes the RASC program from other lunar observing programs available to the public. Time will tell if this will catch on, but several testers found it helpful. And I want to say I found it helpful. It's not the same as the lunar longitude. So lunar longitude is how you actually, on an atlas say exactly where each feature is based on the average center of the moon. But you know that you want to be about a day inside of where the terminator is. And it doesn't matter if it's first quarter or third quarter. If it's first quarter and you're looking, then you want to be, a day after a certain longitude is on the terminator. And if it's the third quarter, then you want to be a day before. So here are two pictures of Clavius on 15 degrees west. That's its longitude. And so 2.4 days after the first quarter, or 0.7 days after the third quarter. See, there's about 2 days difference between 2.4 and 0.7, but that's just so that you're inside of the terminator. You're inside where the light is lit. And it's really very good to see the same feature lit from both sides. You get to know, you get an idea, a better idea of the morphology, the shapes, the heights of the mountains when you get to see the same features from lit from both sides. So that's a very good thing, and certainly something I'm going to be continuing. So when you take a look at when features are useful, well, these are the Q1 days, the first quarter days, and it would always be, you know, the lunar longitude. That's something that you can look up, and then you can figure out you're going to be a bit after that for the first quarter, or a bit before that for the third quarter. That's in red. And what's really cool is when you are very close to the terminator. So one of the very lovely things on the moon is the Sinus Iridium, the bay of rainbows, and it has these two big mountains on either corner. This is the one that's visible. It's very close to the terminator this time, and it's got a huge, long shadow. So there's a mountain here, the Promontorium Laplace, but what was notable at this time, because it was so close to the terminator, was this long, long, long shadow. It's like at sunset how long your shadow is. So you can, with the Q day, it helps you plan when you're going to be looking at different things. And I'm becoming a bit of a missionary on this. I think people should use this notation. So this is just saying, here are the 99 pages of the observation book. And I'm not going to, dwell on every picture, of course, but I'll point out a few. And so this is the actual dossier. And so the feature that's in the guidebook is here in orange, and it says where it is on each picture, the time, the date, the Q day. And then in red, I put in my various commentaries. So this is my very first picture. And it's not very good, but I'm glad that practice makes perfect, or practice makes better. So again, I'm just going to kind of quickly go along. I've shown this picture of Clavius already. I tried charcoal one time. I didn't like it. Charcoal is too smudgy for me. So I've been using pencil crayons other than this one. I also want to show off my wonderful lunar stencil that my friend Jane and Eva put together on. They stenciled this on my hoodie. So that feels really good to have purpose-made clothes when you're observing. Okay. If anybody says stop, I will do so, but otherwise I'm just going to go kind of zip along. So yeah, my mom died on June 10th, and I wasn't making observations, but I was invited to give a moon talk at the Center of the Universe the week before the 50th anniversary. I think it was Chris who got the actual date. He got to talk on the July 20th up at the Center of the Universe. I was the week before. And the week before that, so on July 7th, the sun was just beautifully illuminating Tranquility, the Sea of Tranquility. And that X there is where Apollo 11 landed. And so I got to show off that picture as part of my my talk. where I talked about the Explore the Moon program and tried to encourage people to look up, study the moon. I presented this to you before. This was a night of particularly good seeing, and I found on the internet somebody put up a picture, not the same day, but with similar light, and annotated the photograph with the diameters of all the craters in Clavius. And in particular, this is an 8-kilometer crater, but here there are some 4-kilometer craters that all I could see is some texture. And so on the basis of that, I figure I can see 4 arcsecond crater. I haven't tried with the same equipment and on a good night to see what I can do with double stars, but that would be, it's a very different thing being able to recognize a crater and all the context that goes along with that to looking at double stars. Oh yeah, this was the one crater that I did with the 16-inch, but it wasn't actually much better than anything I did with the 6-inch. The seeing that night wasn't very good. I'm going to keep going. Oh, this is my only negative drawing. So an important thing about the moon is most of the features you see when they're with the glancing light and you see the long shadows. But a big exception is the rays of the young craters. In this case, Copernicus and Kepler. They are very bright to direct light, to specular reflections. And so you really want to use the full moon for tracing out the rays. And they're not just radial. You get these railroad tracks coming off Copernicus. A lot of people call those the railroad tracks. It's very interesting. I don't understand what actually happens after these impacts, but they're not just everything goes out from a single point in the middle. So I did this one in negative instead of the positive way that I did the others. I'm very pleased with this picture. I used my remote camera, the remote on my camera. I set it up on a tripod, but this was up at the Victoria Center Observatory. I took this picture. The Rupus Recta is a very famous, it's the straight wall, and it's just lovely to get a nice picture of that. An interesting thing with the very large craters is they are curved along with the rest of the moon. And so in this case, you have here in the west, you have the shadows of the rim around Clavius, but in the east, that's actually the curvature of the floor of this one crater. It's about 200 kilometers across. Put it in shadow. Lovely. Clavius is the second largest crater on the near side. Bailey is about 300 kilometers across, is the largest, but you can only really see the whole thing when there's a proper libration, when the wobble brings the that limb of the moon up towards the center. So here it is, and I was hoping the next night to be able to see it just with one day's different, but it was too cloudy. So this was a couple of days later, and you can see that Bailey is in the light while the around it wasn't. And this was a bit fat. It was a very, very thin crescent on this night. Hard to draw that way though. Yeah, this is the sort of thing when I just was not able to see things. One of my features that I never did see properly was Daguerre. It's well known that you have to see it. It's such a shallow feature that you can only see it when the light is very, very glancing. And I think it's wonderful that people who decide to name a feature on the moon that you can only see where the light is just right is called daguerre, just like the daguerreotypes were these pictures that you could only see. They were the first photographs in the 19th century, but you could only see them when the light was glanced off the image just right. Just kind of skipping along. Oh, this was the beginning of COVID, March 15th. Yeah, and I remember, so this was March 18th. I drew the Palus Epidemiarum, the Marsh of Epidemics, and the Lacus Timoris, the Lake of Fear. And Reg was moderating the Astro Cafe that week, and he was worried that I was getting a bit dark in deciding to draw these sorts of things at the beginning of our epidemic. This was the day when I got the most features, 14 features in one view of the, this is the Mare Imbrium. I'm really pleased with this one. I think that it's got good three-dimensionality. Oh, that's the famous 4. One of my favorite views of the moon. I'm skipping along again. Anybody can say stop, but we're kind of, I think I'm outdoing my time limit, so I'll just kind of quickly go. Oh, this was a great night. I was working away. This is one of my favorite views also. The Ophelia, Sirius, and Katerina is this lovely triplet. But as I was sketching, then I saw this dot move slowly across the face of the moon. And I figure it has to be a satellite that was in shadow, or, you know, it was in silhouette against the moon. But I've never seen anything like that. There were a few things that you have to see in different light. And so, you know, and you can't just say, I saw this one feature, but the guidebook asks you to see it, the same feature with different lights. So that's why I would have things like this. This is the only time I did a detailed image of a feature that wasn't clear in the whole sketch. I'm going to have to read that to figure out what I was saying there. Yeah, Rime. So these volcanic valleys are very hard for me to see, and might be my optics or might be my observation site. I'm not sure, but there are things that are, it's these very small linear features that are difficult to see. Yeah, I said I like how the ejecta look around Kepler that night. We're into September. There's the famous 4 again. There's Halloween. I went to Dallas. You see, this was a night that I knew that the clouds were coming in, so I had to catch the moon before it was getting too late, because by the time I'm in November, then there are very few features left to draw, so I have to catch every chance I can get. So I went out to Dallas Road, which is not far from where I live, so that I could get a good low view of the moon. And here we are, my last day. I plotted it for like 3 weeks ahead. I had to figure out when were the possibilities to see it, and it was cloudy on November 26 and 27. But then on the 28th, there we are. So it's the day after here that I was able to, oh no, it was the 27th. It's just that I did it at 4 in the morning. That's right. This is Q1 plus 6.1 days, so 0.2 days later. And then I got my last features and I did 3 drawings that night. 1, 2, and this is it. And at 4:49 in the morning on November 28th, I was all done. So then I spent about a month putting this dossier together and annotating all the images and making sure that everything was done just right. And I submitted it. And a month after that, I got the happy email saying it's all been certified. I was able to do all of them. And then I got the pin. So the moral of the story is look up. It's worth it.
Very impressive.
Thank you very much.
So there was a question for you.
Motivation to do it.
Question from Dave and Raquel. Did you do any observing during the day? I guess when you can see the moon during the day, could you make out any of those features, or would it be too light, I guess?
Well, it depends on your definition of day. I certainly, sometimes I would start while it was still light, but the more common thing is you're sketching in the morning and you're fighting against the light. You're saying, I have to finish this drawing, but it's that compromise between the extra time spending sketching and it just getting too late it fades away. It just disappears. And you say, oh, well, but sometimes I didn't do all my shading and everything. I would just say, okay, that's enough. So not full daytime. That's not possible. Good question.
Are any of your drawings or sketches composites, like over more than one night?
No.
They're all unique observing.
Yeah. Okay. That is, I have such respect for, I just love the idea of people who didn't have the SVS, Science Visualization Studio, to know what they're looking at, and they're just drawing the moon. And you have these people that drew full globes, they would do it like 50 centimeter or 3 meter. There's somebody in the 19th century, I should learn the names of these great pioneers who would work on a single drawing over years. And there was one fellow in the 40s who did, I think it was a 3 meter map of the moon with a micrometer and figuring things out. And he kept the receipt from NASA in the early 60s. They bought 6 copies of it from him. So that was part of the research getting ready for Apollo. So yeah, I think one of the life goals is to just draw a circle, nice big circle, and then fill it in.
Speaking of goals, what is your next project?
Well, my next project is the project I've been working on for 30 years. I've been noting the phase by naked eye every time I see the moon, and I fill it in my book, my little book I keep in my pocket. And I've been keeping these records on and off for 31 years. I started in 1990. And then I realized that some of the variations have to do with the moon speeding up and slowing down, which is related to the the perigee and the apogee. And the other independent measurement of that is the diameter. And so for my birthday last year, I got a sextant. And so I've been measuring every time I see the moon now. I still do the naked eye estimate of the phase. And it's fascinating, and I'll give it another talk on that. But my very first talk for the Astro Cafe was on this topic 3 years ago. But then I also take a measurement of the diameter with the sextant, and with my 1,000 millimeter reflex lens, I take a photograph of it. And I'm trying to work out with the a computer program how to actually use that to measure the diameter. So I'm very interested in looking at the variations of the diameter and relating it to the speeding up and slowing down of the moon. The smart thing would be to actually have a, what do you call it, a pedestal, and measure the position of the moon, because I'm trying to do astrometry without doing astrometry. It's kind of stupid, but it's a challenge, and I'll see how far it can go.
Good luck with that.
I'm also interested, I think that until the sextant was invented, I don't think there were good measurements of the lunar diameter. And certainly the Ptolemaic model of the solar system, the diameter should have changed by a factor 2, which it obviously doesn't. But it makes me think that they just were not worrying about the diameter until Galileo's time, or sometime around then it started to become an issue. And until you could actually split the screen like you can with a sextant, I don't think it was measured. But this is something I have to do some more historical research on. It's important because, you know, they recognized quite early on that you could use the moon to give you a global measure of time, and therefore a method to get longitude. And so a lot of the, you know, the big science of the day that, you know, now we have CERN and we have the Hubble. Anyway, the big national observatories of the 17th and 18th centuries were there largely to do accurate maps of the moon's orbit. And this was the important science of the day.
Well, thank you very much, Randy. It was, and congratulations for completing that. That was a very major undertaking. And as I say, not very many people have actually done that. If you're interested in the initial program that Randy did, the Explore the Moon, that will be the next topic that National is going to present as a webinar series. I'll just quickly share the screen so you can see where it is. So hopefully you can see that. This is the RASC website. And if you look for Moon at Noon, it's going to be at noon Eastern time. So it'll be at 9 o'clock in the morning on Thursdays, but it will be recorded and available to view on YouTube. So if you are interested, this starts on April the 1st, and the schedule has already been worked out here. Notice they have the queue numbers, and they are proposing that if conditions permit, you might be able to have completed this program by kind of some point in June. So this is following up on the Explore the Universe program that they did starting in, I guess, the late summer and into the fall. This is the next one. And if you do want to register, you can do so here. And as I said, it will be live at that time with Jenna Hines from RASC National and John Reed, who is in Halifax. And he has written some observing guides, and he has a moon observing guide that's available from RASC or from Amazon, which goes quite well with this program. And you do have the two options to do it with binoculars or with a telescope. And Randy, I believe you did telescope, correct? You used the same equipment?
Yeah, it was pretty well the same equipment, different mount at the time.
And so, yeah, so if conditions went well, I guess, and you followed along quite quickly with their with the program they've put together, you could do it in fairly not in a huge amount of time.
Again, I did 3 lunations for mine, but that did include some morning observations. If you're never going to do a morning observation, it might be a bit tougher.
Yeah. So if those people who are interested, rasc.ca, moon at noon.
And Bill Weir has been helpful sending out good ideas for making observations. So thank you, Bill.
Tonight's the night for the start of the waxing gibbous. It hits at over 18 days. So tonight's a qualification and it'll be clear. You just have to be up at midnight.
Right.
And in doing that, Isabell Williams, sketching is not required. Randy just chose to do the sketching.
Yeah.
It really is based on doing written observations with a sketch if you feel you want to embellish on what you say you saw. So there's the two routes. Sketching makes it harder to review.
Yeah,
because it's much harder to lay out in a tabulated form. If you just have descriptions, you can order them in order. If 6 different things, but they're at different points in the observation table, then looking back and forth makes it more difficult. So add a sketch to your written observation.
And let us be very thankful of our volunteers who are willing to go through the notes.
It was interesting to see because it was a lot of work doing all those sketches and the way shadows run. It's the reason that you can't do a composite from night to night. Shadows change over just a few hours. Think of like the lunar X. It's visible for a total of about 4 hours.
Yeah.
And if it's visible in Eastern Canada, it won't be visible in Western Canada because the shadows have changed that much over the time. So it's impossible to do those types of things. You got to grab it when you do. Here's something for you to go for, Randy. Look them up. The sunset and sunrise crater rays, where the light shines through cracks in the wall into the crater.
Oh, yeah. It's just wonderful. And I know people are very keen on catching those.
Yeah. I keep always seeing this fabulous one that's in Magnus. It seems every time I look at it, it's always there. It just shines in like a big bright wedge out of the dark.
Very good. Does anybody else have anything this evening?
Chris, could I share the screen briefly again?
Sure, please do.
We have another
good.
Who completed the Isabell Williamson, the Center Explore the Universe certificate. Congratulations to Pedro.
Nice.
Well done.
So Bill.
Yes.
The effect of the pandemic on the RASC observing programs.
Right.
How's it gone?
I don't really know. Do you mean, are there more?
I read somewhere that there are more, but I thought
more certificates.
Yeah.
I think probably Explore the Universe more than anything. And that's just because I think more people are doing it, because it really isn't that old of a program. And it isn't that sort of daunting. It's designed. I mean, I just started doing it about a month ago, just to do myself to see what it is. And I've decided to just do it with binoculars. I did one night with my 6-inch telescope, but then I decided to just go with the binoculars to see how it would go. Should figure out what it means. And I'm not going to backdate anything. So everything's got to be new because I want to see how hard it is to do the things.
How's it going?
To catch some of the things. Well, because I know the sky, it makes it a little bit easier to go out and catch a whole bunch of things, but it still means that it's the requirement of the sky conditions to see it, that part, right? Being on the West Coast here, to see if how hard it is just in being able to bag all the times. Like I'm working on just the moon thing right now. And that means it's got to be clear on one of those nights to get that crescent. Right. Oh, here's something I learned today. And this was, I was listening to the radio and I never knew this. And it's a period of time every year when the radio stations need to use the Anik satellite. And it's the sun transit. And it's when the time of the year is right, when the sun is right behind the satellite. And there will be a gap in the radio transmission. So there'll be like this whole, that death thing that radio people hate, where that goes silent and then people won't find them. It happens for about a week around the end of February and early March, that there will be gaps in anything that uses the Anik satellite.
That impacted our telephones when I lived in the Arctic. So for those 2 weeks, our phones didn't work midday every day for about a week. Yeah, about a week.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it before. I just thought it was interesting. It's kind of neat. Things you don't think about.
So you could call within your community, but you couldn't call anybody else. Yeah. Very good. So anybody else have anything this evening?
I'm shooting the Orion Nebula right now.
Oh, very good.
Getting some, it's a bit breezy out, so. But,
Oh, you're doing it right now?
yes,
Ha!
I could
Yeah.
share my screenshot of my capturing.
Sure. Why not? Let's see some actual. I'm just looking out the window. Yeah, it's not too bad out tonight for a change.
I don't know if,
Oh,
can
wow.
you guys,
Yeah.
can you see this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my ASI Air on my iPhone, and you can kind of see the Horsehead Nebula right
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
and the bright star. I don't know which star that is, but
That's a nebulous star too.
yeah,
It's
it's
a
got
nebula.
it's got a bunch of reflection nebula around it.
Yeah.
And there's thanks, Elon has given me a nice little streak here, thankfully. So
Yes.
that'll be great. This frame is gone, but anyways,
Cool.
it's pretty nice to just be able to sit in here and in the warmth and just watch what's going on my rig outside. So
So
That's
that's
the
kind of
whole,
right outside your house, is it? Or
yeah, it's on my patio.
Brock, are you using an ASI camera?
No, I'm using a Canon T3i that I modified to
Mhm.
get better reds,
Okay,
And-
but you're using ASI Air though.
but I'm using an ASI Air,
Hmm.
and it's windy, so the guiding's terrible.
Okay,
But
so what kind of mount are you using?
I have a Celestron CGEM 2, and it's an Edge HD 925 with a reducer.
Mhm.
So apparently that's about the max focal length that you can get decent plate solving on the ASI Air.
Is the
I haven't-
air just riding on a rail on the scope or?
Yeah,
Or
it's
on
just mounted up onto one of the mounting points on the
Mm.
side of the housing.
Mm.
So,
Very nice.
but it's been great. It's nice. I've got pretty good results with it, and it's just nice to be able to just come inside in the warmth and just kind of monitor what's going on. And once in a while, I'll go out there and check to make sure it's not
Yeah,
crashing or.
I've just opened mine up, but the weather hasn't been really good. I've been meaning to use it with the Borg.
With the what?
With the Borg that I have a 200 millimeter f3.6 Borg,
Oh, okay,
and I'm going to use it with an ASI camera. So
perfect.
the obvious thing would be to use the Air. So I
Yeah.
did get the Air, but I got everything just before the weather turned bad.
Yes. Well, this is the first actual imaging that I've done in, it's got to be like a month or two.
Mhm.
It's a couple of months at least. So
Well, the last few
Just-
things that I played with was the Orion Nebula. You've got like the horse head in there.
yeah, I got the Horsehead, and I thought I was debating that or the Flame or the Orion, and I don't know. I just picked one. So
Oh,
not
very
much longer before it's gone.
That seems like it's working quite well, considering it's.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
it's-
dither.
I guess it's quite nice because you don't have to worry about a laptop. Your laptop is the ASI Air, And
Yes.
then everything is done through their tablet or your phone. So
Yeah, just keep an
what's
eye
that
on the
like?
phone and monitor it.
So how far away are you from the unit?
Well, I'm probably 50 feet away, but I've got a Ethernet. The ASI Air Pro is one big downfall. It's great in so many ways, but it's terrible Wi-Fi. Like it's literally 10 feet, and then it gets dropped. But I've actually got a power cable going out and running my mount. And that power cable, I have one of those Ethernet, power line Ethernet plugs.
Oh, okay.
Plugged into the power cord, and then another one in the wall jack behind me here connected into my router. So it's basically using the power cord as Ethernet, and then I've got a short Ethernet cable going up to the ASI Air.
So I ended up using a travel router. I don't know if you've seen these things. They're very, very small, about maybe about that big. So I strapped that in.
Has that been good?
I haven't really played with it long enough. I was a little bit disheartened because I thought it would have some security behind it, but there's really no security here. And ASI decided not to do any security, which I thought was kind of weird. I don't know why they didn't bother, right?
Yeah.
It'd be really easy for them to do.
Well, it's security by obscurity, because there's no way anyone can get close enough to pick up the signal because it's so terrible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And actually, if you just use the ASI Air itself, like you say, the range is so poor, nobody's going to be tapping into it anyway. And what is it? I don't think it really matters anyways, because it's communicating with an iOS app, right?
Yes.
So it's pretty well kind of penned in, so it's not going to be able to do too much.
Well, that's really neat.
But they are nice. If anyone wants to get into astrophotography, getting the ASI Air simplifies almost everything dramatically. It does plate solving.
You've got the newer one with the power on it as well, right?
Yeah, the ASI Air Pro. It also runs my dew heaters. So it powers my dew heaters.
Yep.
It records all the images. It plate solves. It does, like, it just takes care of everything. Makes it so much simpler.
And your 12-volt power supply is just an AC adapter?
Yeah, I've got two AC adapters. I've got one, I picked up one off DigiKey, a bigger one that I use for the ASI Air, and I've got the one for the mount as well out there. And so I think it's a 10 amp 12 volt that runs into the ASI Air that then powers the dew heaters.
Yeah, you don't have any problems with distribution then.
It powers the camera. I've got the Canon camera powered off that. I've got the dew heaters running, and I just picked up a little board from DigiKey that's a little adjustable power supply. It's got a pot you can turn in, a little digital readout, and you can just set. So I set that to match the power that my camera needs.
Oh, it's perfect.
So I can run the camera off 12 volts plus that little regulator. And yeah, it's got a whole 2 minutes thing. So.
Yeah, it's great. You could sort of jury rig something. I actually bought something commercial that plugs into the Canon that I use.
Which Canon do you have?
I have the 60DA.
Okay.
So I just have a little plug. It's a dummy plug that goes in where the battery goes.
Yep.
And I use a product called Case Relay. And
what's it called?
Case Relay.
Okay.
And I really like it. It's made by the same people that do tether tools. And that's how I'm familiar with it. And it's good because it's kind of like a UPS power supply for your battery. So what happens is the dummy battery goes into this thing called a case relay, which is a battery unto itself. And then that attaches to any 5-volt phone battery power bank. So basically it's kind of limitless. So it's designed for time lapse. So basically you plug it in, and then it will run off of the 5-volt power bank. And then when you have to switch, it's still got power, right? Because it's got that little intermediate battery in between. So you have plenty of time to swap out the power bank, put another power bank in. So it's very convenient.
Cool. I think I lost my guide star. Might have gotten the cloud by. So what's your Wi-Fi router? What is that, a TP-Link, or what did you get for that?
Yeah, it's the 907, or I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, it's the one lots of forums are talking about, the white kind of with a gray perimeter.
Mine's the blue one. It predates the white one. White one's probably better. It's more expensive, but I went for the cheapest thing I could find. So
yeah, Well, I kind of did the power line thing just because I was feeling angry at them for making such a crappy Wi-Fi. So I didn't want to spend any more money and to make up for their foibles. But I might
Well,
actually
TP-Link is quite
hack.
cheap.
Yeah.
The TP-Link's quite cheap. It's like $40 or something. or 40.
Yeah, I know. I was more just out of principle. I just was like, I don't want to spend any more. This thing should actually work as it is. But apparently there's a hack. There's a hack to put a UFL connector on the Raspberry Pi board that will get you, then you can put a connector, you can put a coax on there and run an actual antenna outside.
I'm actually trying to find somebody who's actually done StellarMate, because that's a non-commercial version of what you've got. It doesn't have power distribution, like it's just the
Right.
compute part.
Yep.
But you can get StellarMate for about it's under $100, I think.
And it runs on a Pi?
And it runs on a Pi 4. So you just buy a
Oh,
Pi 4 and just
cool.
stick it on, and away you go.
Nice.
I'm also imaging right now, Dave, but I've got a Nook, the little computers that Intel make.
Oh yeah.
That's just a dream. So I just remote desktop into it.
Oh,
Is
that's a good idea.
it just an i5 or is it one of the i7s?
It's an i5. It's not like doesn't really need to have a huge amount of power behind it.
Is it 12 volts as well?
Pardon me?
Is it 12
Oh,
volts? as
that's it's 15 volt, I think.
well?
And I know there's a little voltage changer.
You can buy a boost.
Yeah.
You could do
Yeah.
that.
So
I might actually need to run out onto the patio here just a
but it's the you remote desktop, and it's just looks after itself pretty much.
Yeah. That's kind of neat. You can do that.
Yeah, I find they're pretty inexpensive. The Nooks, you got to get Windows on it, but at least it's not specialized for just astrophotography. So.
Yeah, I guess for other people that are listening in on this, that is the other option. ASI Pro is kind of like turnkey. It's great for if you have all ASI stuff, like you got an ASI camera, like all that stuff's going to interface great. The reason why I mentioned StellarMate is that it's using Indy rather than ASCOM. So basically, non-ASI cameras you could also use, whereas with ASI you're stuck with the ASI stuff. But the NUC is actually kind of a nice solution, and I know, I think Doug McDonald, who shoots, he bought kind of a Chinese version of a NUC, not the Intel version, and he's quite happy with that as well. Same form factor, kind of a little case, about the size of a NUC.
This might be an idea for a SIG group, David, specifically about using this equipment.
Come Thursday night.
Yeah. But specifically about these setups, and that's really fascinating.
First thing you can do is put together a dictionary.
Yeah, what does it all mean?
Well, I don't really know, like, because having been in the industry for so long, it's hard to know what's common knowledge and what isn't, for me anyways. But yeah, I guess there is a fair bit, but if you've been in tech, it's an easy transition. It's not a problem at all. And if you don't want that kind of stuff, get an ASI Pro, because it's nothing really to know, right? It's very simple to use.
Very good. Well, thank you for joining us this evening. I think maybe it's just coming up to 9 o'clock, so call it an evening unless anybody else has anything further. And let's hope we maybe will start seeing some more clear skies as we move out of the worst of the winter weather, we hope. And we'll hope that we can do some more and share some more of work that we're doing, and we'll be able to join Brock and actually doing some more work and get some things out there. Anyways, anybody with anything else, or shall we call it an evening?
I'd just like to thank Malhar from Prince George for joining us.
Thank you so much for letting me join. It was wonderful. I enjoyed it.
And we'll get that information about the talk you'll be giving through the Friends of the DAO with their, I think you're doing the March Star Party, as I recall, is that right?
I am, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so that will be in about a month, I guess. Is that, I think,
Yeah,
the 27th?
on March 27th, yeah.
Yeah. So just make a note of that now if you want to learn more about his project, March 27th, and we'll get that information out there. Anyways, well, thank you again, and thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Oh, good night.
Thank you so
Good
much.
night,
guys.
everyone.
Have a good night.
And don't forget the SIG groups if you're in one of those.